Hi, this is my teardown bench and this is where I shoot a good lot of my videos, and this is how I shoot them. I got my video camera. This is my secondary camera. My main one's a Canon HF G10, but it sits on the same Manfrotto Moto 785B tripod. I've actually got two of them, and it basically just sits here like this. I can adjust it up and down. I can change my angle and shoot my teardowns on here, and it's not bad. It does the job, but I've always wanted something that has more reach over the bench so that I can actually look down, and often I've actually, held it sort of in place like this and done all sorts of, weird and wonderful things, and even set the tripod out here so that the camera then looks down and I'm free to actually manipulate stuff under the camera. Then I've got to invert the image and all sorts of stuff like that. So I just thought it'd be nice to have some sort of permanent sort of camera dolly system on the bench so that I could do away with the tripod, because I bump the thing a lot. You've probably seen the image shake and things like that, and I'm generally talking over it like this, and it's not too bad, but I generally can't sit down. I'm always doing it standing up. It can be for several hours or something like that, and it does get a little bit annoying. Now, of course, ideally what I want is like some sort of articulating arm or something like that that just allows, that came down from the roof or somewhere else, that just allowed me to sort of, position the camera sort of anywhere like that and tilt it from the vertical down like that and over to the side when I'm testing, screen angles, or I'm shooting a time-lapse teardown or something like that. So ideally I want sort of the camera to sort of operate in this sort of space envelope, so to speak. Now, yeah, there's more than one way to skin a cat here. No, I can't really mount anything on the roof. I've got these drop ceilings, not really rugged enough. I thought about something that came out from the benches out here, but that gets really ugly and doesn't look any good in shots looking in like that. So really, and those articulating arms like you can get on the magnifying lamps and stuff like that, they're pretty crusty kind of things. So I thought it'd be nice to set up a sliding dolly system. I originally had the idea that I'd put some rails at the back there, and then an arm would come out up like that and over and then back down, and then that would sort of slide in and out. But then I want to put test instruments under here. I've cleaned up my teardown bench. I've got some instruments down in there. I want to put more, so that I've basically got two sets of instruments. One's for the teardown and one for my general electronics use over there. So that's the idea. So really I thought the only way to do it is to mount the linear rails on the bottom of the bench like this, and then I can have an arm coming up like this, then that extends over and down, so the camera can just tilt and move in, and it can slide in and out and all that sort of jazz. Well, that's the plan. So the idea is to have a couple of these linear bearing rails. I picked these up on eBay, and you've no doubt seen them before. They can actually be quite expensive, but I sort of got them surplus. I think they may have been used in something. They didn't cost me much at all. So I'm thinking about mounting that on the bottom like that, so that gives me a framework for sliding the camera system across. Now, you can't just use one, because if you let me slide. Here's the little bearing attachment, which then goes on there like that, and if you try and load it down one side like that, it just ends up scraping in there and you don't get that smooth linear action. Now, of course, I'm going to get a lot of noise on this thing. You can probably hear it. Hang on. There we go. So, it's not the best, considering that I mostly use the internal mic in the Canon HF G10 these days, so it's not great when it's actually moving, but that's not the idea. It's just to not actually during the shot. I'm not going to get dramatic panning shots across equipment and stuff like that, although I probably could if I just mute out the audio at that point. Probably couldn't talk over the top of it perhaps. But anyway, the idea is that you need two of these, because if you put all your force on like that, it just doesn't, you know, it's not going to sit on the ball bearing part of that. It's going to scrape along the edge. I'll get a close-up of that. So yeah, there it is. Slides nicely on the ball bearings like that, but once you tilt that, you can see that hitting the wall down there, and that's just going to scrape to a dead stop, and that's going to be hopeless. So what I really need is to mount two rails like this, separated by 20 centimeters or something like that. Not a huge amount. Get two of them, and then I can mount my arm across both of them, so it takes the stress on two different rails. And as far as having the camera like pop out from the bench, I've got one of these sliding kitchen rack, you know, drawer things, and they're, you know, it's actually got a locking mechanism in place like that, so I can just hit it, and of course it slides out like that. Really quite nice. It's all a ball bearing system. These things weren't hideously expensive from the local hardware store, so in theory I could mount that on two of these, or I'll probably mount a wooden block first, so that allows me to screw down to there, and then I screw this onto the wooden block. And assuming, you know, just picture that being on the underside of the bench there, then all I can do is just, all I have to do is just hit that, and boom, my camera, which will be mounted on the end here, I'll have like a block on the end, and then mount my post coming up like this. It'll sit in there like that, right up against the bench, and when I need to bring the camera out, I can just push it and extend it to any distance, so I can get you know, more distant shots all the way back here. So that should be a good enough maximum depth for me. So that's a minimum, and that goes out to maximum. That should do a treat. But of course, what do I do for the actual camera itself, mounting the thing? Not only do I have to have the variable height like that, but it's also then got to tilt. This arm has to tilt, and then the camera's got to go over and down like that. Well, as it turns out, why not use my existing tripod? I've already got it. I love this Manfrotto Moto, and what I can do is I can just take off two of these legs here. So let's just assume that two of these legs are taken off, and if I can rotate this so that these arms actually fold almost directly out like that, and it's really quite neat. So imagine if I unscrew two of these arms here, then what am I left with? Let's have a look here. If let's say I mounted this on my bracket, which came out like that, then not only have I got a camera that moves in and out like that, I've got my existing ball head on here, so I can, you know, pan and tilt my camera to any angle I like, but I can then also tilt it like that, and then bingo, the camera can then extend, and it can still, I haven't figured out how it'll go up and down here yet. That may just be fixed, because it's not often I have to go over the top like that, but there we go. I can still extend that out like that, and I've got my existing friction lock connectors on the tripod here, and my existing ball head, so that can move across like that. Now I've installed my first rail about almost an inch in from the bench here, and the alignment of this one isn't that critical, although I did get it to the millimeter or thereabouts. It's more critical to get this second one the exact distance, i.e. make them completely parallel from one end to the other, because if you don't do that, it's got a fixed platform on here, of course, which can't change length. So if it goes from one end to the other, it might slide fine at one end. When it gets to the other, there's a slight misalignment. If they're not completely parallel, then well, it's not going to slide too well. So that is fairly critical. So I won't measure it. I'll put a block in there at one end, screw it in, and at the other end and screw it in, because the exact depth doesn't actually matter as long as they're completely parallel. And yes, I am completely aware that these sliders are not designed to be mounted upside down like this really. They're designed for the force to be on the top like that and pushing down. That's why the bearings are on the top side of this thing, or now actually on the bottom side. So it's not actually rolling on the bearings anymore as such. It's pulling down on the plastic part. But you know, for a whole rig that's going to weigh like a kilo or less, doesn't matter. Now what I've manufactured here is a plate which goes on between my sliding rails like that, so that can bolt under there, and then this is the sliding extension rail like that, which then is going to bolt onto this plate, and then that will slide out from the bench. And then I've got a right angle bracket to then, still haven't figured out how I'm going to mount my tripod on that, but you got to start somewhere. So that will get me the basis for that, and that slides quite nicely. I rather like that, and it's all nice and rigid and cheap. So let's install that. And it looks like this aluminium plate fits a treat. It's 40 millimeters wide, exactly the same as my bearings. I've got 4 cap head screws in that, and that slides along there very nicely. It's quite noisy, of course, but you can't have everything now. The idea is to bolt that onto there. It sits on the top of the cap head screws there, but that doesn't matter at all. And then that gives me my slide out rail. I originally thought about using wood here, and I actually cut a piece of wood and tried to screw it on, but it's just ugly. It's much easier to use a 3mm aluminium sheet there, so much nicer. So I'll screw this in, and Bob's your uncle. And ta-da! Here is the finished slide-in camera rig. Well, it's not quite finished yet, because what I've done is I've just added some Velcro on there, and then Velcro on the shaft of my tripod, and I could put some down here if I wanted to, and I knew it would hold it, but I also knew it would rotate a bit like that, and if you move the bench, it has a little bit of a wobble in it, but not much, as long as you don't touch it. I mean, I can operate the thing with the remote control, so that's not a problem. But basically that's not bad at all. And of course I can extend it all the way out here like this, and then I can adjust my tripod up like that at this level, and at this sort of extension, yeah, it does actually jump around, a fair bit there. But once you've actually got the thing once you actually get the thing operational and stable, it's, it does wobble. It's not the greatest, but it does actually work. So of course, it's not often I'm going to do a shot from right out here though. Most of the time I'm probably going to be at an angle something like that. Like most of my work is sort of done at that sort of angle. It'd work quite nicely. And of course the microphone's on the top here. I'm using my main camera at the moment. This isn't my main camera, but it's got the same mount and everything. So I can just literally take that off, and then this is my main camera. Then I can just whack that on there like that, and bingo, I've got my shot, which then, it's not it's not like a Dolly type system for moving shots. It's not that great. You can probably see vibration and all that stuff, and certainly noise, but that pulls out like that and goes in. So that's not too bad at all. And then of course I can adjust the height on that. But of course, one of the big things I want to do is, obviously that Velcro I don't think is going to be any good down there, and then I can't compress the tripod anymore if I want to use it. So I may have to figure out some sort of other mount system here. I just thought I'd try the Velcro for kicks. But anyway, now it allows me to bend this over like this, and if I mount the camera back on, there we go. If I mounted that rigidly on there like that, then I've got my adjust, and I can even adjust the height of that by having a second thing like that. I can sit the camera right up like that, which you can't see in the shot anymore, sorry about that. And that, if I rigidly, really clamp that properly on there, then I can have the camera looking down like that, and I can sit here and then have both hands coming around and work, you know, fairly well from that vertical camera angle. And of course, if I wanted it low, if I got my macro lens attached to it, and I'm doing a close-up shot at ×10 or ×20 magnification, or something like that, then that is going to work quite nicely. And of course, I've just got the friction adjuster on there, which then can just slide the tripod, slide the camera in and out like that. Kind of works. Needs a bit of a refinement, but still not bad at all. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave that for today. That's more than good enough. It does the job. I just need maybe a slightly better solution for the to actually hold the thing in place down here. The problem is I've got to actually have multiple heights here, so I've got to solve that, as well as, I mean, you know, I've already got the tilting thing there, and if I clamp that on there really tight, I mean, this would actually still be a pretty good system. I just need the sort of, you know, adjustable sort of at least say a fixed 2-height solution there, so that I can bend that over and use that vertically, even actually 3 like that, so I can make it a bit higher there. So anyway, if you've got any suggestions for that, then please leave it in the comments. But yeah, that's not too bad at all. I don't mind that. It does a reasonably good job. Catch you next time.